The resurrection of Jesus is a fact in itself, but for the disciples, the experience of the resurrection was always different. Each experienced it in his or her own way and at their own pace. And the running of Peter and John to the empty tomb is very symbolic of that. John ran faster than Peter and got there ahead of him, but both of them eventually came to the experience of Jesus in their own time and at their own pace. Resurrection can be a very difficult reality to comprehend or to make a connection with. I find myself, when I'm going through Holy Week, I have a very strong connection with Holy Thursday and Good Friday. It's like it touches something very deep inside in the heart. Resurrection is a different thing because we haven't yet experienced it ourselves. But what I do believe is important is the intensity of desire that is in our hearts to have the experience of Jesus risen from the dead, and that we go on and we persist in our intensity. For me, the best parable of it, the best experience of it in my own life comes from when my sister Maura died suddenly 18 years ago at the age of 46. And Maura and I were very, very close. We were always together, and we had a very strong physical as well as an emotional connection. And when she died, I felt intensely lonely. And I used to say to God in prayer how much I missed her and how intensely I desired to touch her again, to feel the touch of her presence in my life. And that was a prayer that went on and on and on. And it was a prayer filled with sincerity and desire and real sorrow. And I had two dreams of Maura, and I don't know how long after her death. It may have been a year or two after her death. The first one I think I've spoken of before. The second one is in my mind today. I went to in this dream, I went to the cemetery to visit Maura's grave. And as I walked in the cemetery gates, the cemetery was transformed into a church. And sitting in the back seat of the church was Maura, and there was nobody else there. And I was absolutely delighted to see her. And I went to her, and she put out her hand to me, and she simply said to me, "Will we dance?" And I said to her, "We can't dance in here." And she said, "We can." And she led me. Maura and I used to dance back in the 70s. We were great jivers, for those who remember jiving, and we were actually very good at it. You mightn't believe it, but we were. But she took me by the hand and led me up to the top of the church into an open space. It was kind of like this space here. And there was no music, but there was light. There was this absolutely beautiful light shining down. Not a physical electric light, but it was like the light of heaven shining down upon the two of us. And there we danced together to what I would call silent music, but joyful music. And when I woke from that dream, what struck me was that I would go to the cemetery looking for my sister. And it's like what the Lord says in the Gospel of Resurrection: "Why search among the dead for one who is alive?" And that was one of the first things that Maura was telling me, and God was telling me through her, that even though she had died and was gone from me, that she was in fact alive. And that life is the life of Jesus, that life is contained within the embrace of the sanctuary of the church, where Jesus is present and alive in the Eucharist. And the promise of that dream as well was that I myself one day, that all of us one day, will enter into the sacred space of Jesus in the Eucharist in its most perfect sense, that we will enter into the light of that experience and we will dance in whatever way we are able to dance. And one of the lovely things about the spiritual life, there is song and there is dance in the spiritual life, but you don't have to be a singer or a dancer to do it, because every movement that we make in the presence of the Lord and every song that we attempt to sing in the presence of the Lord is a beautiful sound to the ears of the Lord, because the voice that the Lord has given to you is the voice that he loves. The voice that you speak or try to sing is music to the ears of God, and the sight of you is always joy to the Lord. So if we are to live Easter today, it is to live it with hope and in the embrace of that light that shines upon us, especially from the Eucharist. And even if grief is present and intense, that we will know we are bathed in that light and that we are held in an embrace that is extremely tender and that is infinitely loving, and that will lead us all to the fulfillment and the perfection of life that we desire. And so let's just take a moment in the silence of our hearts. Let's go into the sacred place within ourselves where Jesus lives in a very particular and personal way. And let the intensity of your desire be the gift that you open to Jesus now.